Hello, people. It's Bryony. There's a lot of fear in the energetic space right now across the world in so many different layers of life and humaning and connection. And I want to point to that because that fear that's in the community and in the atmosphere is actually what's being held in our bodies. And fear can be triggered, from a number of places, ancestrally, as well as parts within our system that are not feeling witnessed and held or seen, as well as wounds, as well as ruptures or disembodied parts of ourselves. And in that fear, it can create like this kind of drive to feel safe, but it's a pseudo safety. It's not a safety that's embodied. How we navigate fear in the atmosphere, in and around our communities, is we must be with the fears that we have in our body and in our relational field and in our ancestry. What is happening in the collective and on the macro is always fed by what's happening in the micro, what's happening within the system. We cannot clean up the world until we clean up our own system and our own little corner. We cannot make impacts in the world collectively until we make those impacts first within our own system. When fear is present, we can navigate fear in so many different ways. And I do this in the clinic space with clients. The basis for fear is really recognition that it's here in the system and understanding in our own body and in our own nervous system energetically how we respond and how we feel in our system and in our body when fear is present, because it has a very particular frequency. So what we want to do when because fear contracts us, we want to remain open even when the fear is here, is present. So we learn to sit with the fear. We learn to recognize and acknowledge that fear is here, and we sit with the fear. We don't need to add story to it. This is the thing, particularly with the work that I do and with nervous system work. If we don't attach a story, then the emotions and what we are feeling at this particular point in time will shift in 90 seconds, scientifically verified, that it will shift in 90 seconds. So when we don't add story, it shifts. And so the practice here is to remain with and beside and in connection with that sense of fear, is what the body is pointing us to, reminding us of, highlighting us to turn towards. Fear gets bigger the more we ignore it, because fear cannot be contained. It ripples out. It is like a child that is dysregulated. It will continue to escalate in its behaviors until you turn towards and face it and acknowledge that it's here. You don't need to fix your fear. You don't need to find the root cause of your fear. You don't need to change your fear. You just need to sit alongside, acknowledge, and be with. And how we are to be with is that we ground. We have and build capacity in our system to sit with those complex feelings, to sit with the discomfort, the pain, the frustration, and the rupture within the system. And so when we sit with and we sit beside and soothe and be with, then what we start to see is that the fear it shifts, it moves, it gets smaller. And the more that we sit with it, what we find is that once we're witnessing that charge in the system, that will shift to something else. And then we sit with that as well. When we can navigate and sit with those complex, uncomfortable, frustrating, places that we don't have a sense of control or that we kind of lose ourselves in, when we can anchor and sit with those places and spaces within ourselves, then we can start to do that with community, then we can start to do that with collective and family, and we just get better at it. So it is not about shifting it and intentioning it and moving it out of our system as much as it's sitting with, and the body will innately, that charge, that energy will innately start to shift and move because it doesn't feel good in the body, it doesn't feel good in the spirit. So it will shift it when we bring presence and when we sit and witness it. And then that feeds, that energy, as it changes, it feeds into the collective.